Animals whose hoofs are hardened on the rough ground can travel any road, but when they are fattened on soft, mushy meadows, their hooves are soon worn out. The bravest soldier comes from rock-ribbed regions, but the town-bred and the home-bred are sluggish in action. Seneca, like many other Stoics, advocated for a simple, disciplined life. His works mostly focus on self-improvement, virtue, and the understanding of human nature. However, Stoicism warns us about places that indulge in luxurious living. Now, of course, in the Stoic realm of the world, we're all not sages, and we're on the path to becoming better. So if we live in a place that makes it hard for us to improve our character, let's say you're living in Las Vegas and you're trying to abstain from strippers. Of course, it's going to be very hard, so you should go to a place with no strippers if you're trying to get over strippers. A good example is maybe two engineering students. One is going to MIT and lives in the middle of the university. The second is also going to MIT, but maybe he studies from home and he lives in Las Vegas right next to the betting casino, or maybe there's a lot of parties, or maybe he lives right next to a strip club. You know, if I was a betting man, who would I bet my money on? Of course, I'd bet on the person living in the middle of MIT, because now they're going to have less distractions. That environment is more suitable for him for an engineering degree. Now, of course, this is a simple example, but let us remember that this is not the first time this is happening. These works are from 2,000 years ago, and Seneca reminds us of a hardcore soldier. Think of David Goggins, like that level of hardcore. This man was conquering the Alpines in the snow. He was conquering people with his weapons. He was very strong. But then he ended up being conquered with his vices because he took a break and he was pampered and he lost all of that vigor. But in the same way, we are also in a war, but in a war against our vices. And this is not an easy war. We're in a war against our ambitions, our anger, and our excessive desire. And this war, there cannot be complacency. Because if we fail, we will not be free. We will be hindered in our progress as humans. As we are in this war, we need to make decisions that are going to help us move closer to virtue and run away from temptation. That's why you must select a place to live that is suitable for your goals. In the same way, a place to work. In the same way, your friends. Because your surroundings are going to impact your ability to virtue. Now, of course, we all have different goals. We should be in different areas that support our goals. If you want to be a tennis superstar, go and live in a place that is full of tennis superstars. Live in a place where there are hundreds of courts and pros always practice. In our fight for virtue, I have two quotes for you that are going to help you not to slack in your fight for virtue. Because with virtue, we live more free lives and we're just happier people. Quote number 1. Fortune is fighting against me, and I shall not carry out her commands. I refuse to submit to the yoke. Nay, rather, I shall shake off the yoke that is upon me, an act which demands even greater courage. 2. The soul is not to be pampered. Surrendering to pleasure means also surrendering to pain, surrendering to toil, surrendering to poverty. Both ambition and anger will wish to have the same rights over me as pleasure, and I shall be torn asunder, or rather pulled to pieces amid all of these conflicting passions. But I have set freedom before my eyes, and I am striving for that reward. And what is freedom, you ask? It means not being a slave to any circumstance, to any constraint, to any chance. Our surroundings are key to forming our habits, shaping our minds, and ultimately defining our lives. According to the Stoics, a rough terrain is not a disadvantage, but a good training ground for the mind. Remember, the bravest soldier comes from rock-ribbed regions, but the town-bred and the home-bred are sluggish in action. So what should we do with our vices? Remember, we have bad habits that hold us back in life. Seneca advises us to fight as much as we can to rip them away from our hearts. Because if we don't, this is a tough battle. They threaten to consume us, and we shall become slaves to these vices. And when we become slaves to these vices, I don't have to tell you what's going to happen to your life. In this era of constant stimulation, luxury, and excess, these words from Seneca ring truer than ever. We need to be like watchmen, constantly watching our lives for those bad habits. And also, we need to fight for virtue as much as we can. Because if we do, this is the path to a good life. In that manner, let's remember Seneca's parting words. Vice, my friend, is what I wish you to proceed against, without limit and without end. For it has neither limit nor end. If any vice render your heart, cast it away from you. And if you cannot get rid of it in any other way, pluck out your heart also. Above all, drive pleasures from your sight, hate them beyond all other things, for they are like the bandits whom the Egyptians call lovers, who embrace us only to suffocate us. This ancient wisdom is something we can carry with us into this current life. Thank you for joining us today, and until next time, strive for this virtue and keep your hooves hardened against the marshy meadows of life.